What is up, coaches? Sherb here from Team Misfit to give you some 23.3 tips to help your athletes have a better go at 23.3. And we're going to start first with the wall walks. The number one thing I want to hammer home to all of your athletes is something you should be thinking about when talking to your athletes. When it comes to wall walks, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I don't mean slow wall walks. I mean, don't rush, don't be frantic. If you watch the live announcement, you watch athletes go a little too quickly, jack their heart rate up into their throat, and all of a sudden they could jump rope or snatch afterwards. So again, you do not need to be super duper fast as you go through your set of 5. Aim to be quick in each individual wall walk, but you don't have to rush through 5 reps. Second, you've seen a zillion wall walk workouts in our program, and we've been programming them all year long because we thought this was coming, and guess what? It showed up. Focus on how you move and be consistent with the amount of steps it takes you to go into the wall and the steps it takes you to go out from the wall every single time. I think little as 2 weeks ago, we did a workout with 100 of them in them. You should have plenty of reference points for how to get through those wall walks efficiently, so do it that way. And then last but not least, this is something one of my favorite things I communicate with athletes who struggle to get all the way into the wall is that your midline matters. We see plenty of athletes who get really, really close to getting themselves all the way to the tape line, but all of a sudden it feels like they run into a wall, and that's their rib cage bumping up against the wall. So as athletes begin to walk their way into the wall, remind them to keep their ribcage tucked down so that doesn't prevent them from getting all the way in and making it so they're doing almost a standard, but not quite. Midline matters. Moving on to the double unders. Positions matter. Shoulders down, hands tight at your sides, and flick the wrists. We do not want to be using our full arm to spin the rope because if we are, we're making the rope shorter, we're hitting our toes over again, and that frustration can lead to frantic movement, which again gets your athletes discombobulated and makes it hard to stay focused on the snatches that follow it. Make sure you're breathing. Breathe, breathe, breathe. It's a simple thing to think about, but as you're jumping up and down, focus on getting the air in and out of your lungs so your heart rate isn't elevating. And if you have athletes who are still kind of accomplishing this skill or maybe they don't have 50 double unders on demand at all times, it is perfectly fine to break this up into 2 sets of 25, 5 sets of 10, or even 10 sets of 5. What allows them to stay calm and relaxed matters because for a lot of people, this power snatch is coming up is going to be the limiting factor for them. And if they're super frantic here, they're not going to be rested and recovered enough to move that barbell well. Now, before we get to the snatch, we also have some strict handstand push-ups for those athletes being able to cruise to those first 2 rounds. If you are on the strict handstand push-ups, the number one thing we want to avoid are slow reps. When you see an athlete grinding through a slow rep, as the coach, you should remind them that, hey, we practice these muscular overload workouts all year round. It does not pay to grind through 1 rep because guess what? You do manage to get through that rep, you probably have more behind them, and you also have snatches afterwards. You want your shoulders feeling fresh, so don't grind through slow reps. And then another tip there is we don't want to see your athletes resting at any point during the handstand push-up. So if you have an athlete that likes to come down, put their head on the mat, shift their hands, and then try to press back out, that's just going to allow them to be on their hands for longer, again, messing up their ability to snatch the barbell that follows. Finally, moving on to the snatches. For your athletes that are able to snatch the barbell proficiently, encourage them to power snatch for as long as possible. Power snatch, again, allows the athlete to spend less time under tension because if they get through 1 round of power snatch, they're either going back to another shoulder dominant movement in the wall walks, or they're going to strict handstand push-ups, both of which are super taxing on the shoulders. So again, you want to minimize the amount of time under tension, so power snatch as long as you can. There is a really good chance, though, at some point in this workout with 135, 185, or even 225, the squat snatch is going to need to come out of the bag. When you get to that position where you have to squat snatch, your positions matter a ton, and being patient and getting that barbell all the way to the hips is critical to making sure that you can get in the right position, stacked overhead, so you can stand up that snatch. We spent a big part of this year. In fact, Ted's not going to shake his head when I say this, but we spent, 22 weeks learning the tempo pull power snatch to try to get your athletes to understand how important positions are when it comes to the Olympic lifts. Here's a chance for your athletes to show off all of that hard work they spent this entire season on refining the snatch. So again, coaches, to recap really quickly, wall walks, focus on being efficient. You do not need to be frantic. Workouts are going to start. Athletes are going to be a little jittery and they're going to want to go really fast. Keep them under control. When they move on to the double unders, remind them to breathe. It's important to breathe because again, if you're not breathing, you're not going to do well at what follows afterwards. Strict handstand push-ups, time under tension is a killer. Move fast. Do not rest at any point in the handstand push-up. And last but not least, with the snatches, power snatch as long as you can. But when you are forced to do a squat snatch, make sure you get in the right positions and you're plenty patient. If you like this tips, hit that follow button. We'll see you in the next one.